Hey guys, tonight we drift softly into the last day of Pompeii, a place where ordinary lives unfolded in the shadow of a sleeping giant. Settle in, let your eyes grow heavy, and allow the gentle rhythm of this story to carry you towards sleep. If you're finding these quiet histories soothing, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us keep wandering these forgotten paths together. Now, breathe deeply and step with me into the warmth of that ancient morning. Today might be January 5th, 2026, but you drift back to a very different morning, one in the year we now call 79 AD. The sun rises slowly over the Bay of Naples, painting the sky in soft hues of pink and gold. You feel the first rays warming your skin as you step out from a simple doorway in Pompeii, the air carrying the faint salt of the sea mixed with the earthy scent of baking bread. Your sandals click softly against the uneven stones of the street, worn smooth by countless feet before yours. This city hums with life, a cozy rhythm of the everyday, where no one suspects the mountain in the distance is stirring from its long slumber. You walk down the Via dell'Abbondanza, the main artery pulsing with the morning's energy. Carts rumble past, their wooden wheels creaking under loads of amphorae filled with olive oil or garum, that salty fish sauce so beloved here. Vendors call out in lazy voices, their words blending into a soothing murmur. Fresh figs, ripe and sweet. A woman shouts from her store, her basket overflowing with purple fruit dusted in morning dew. Children dart between legs, their laughter light and fleeting, chasing a leather ball that bounces off a fountain's edge. Water splashes gently from the lion-headed spout, cool droplets catching the light as you pause to fill your cup. The stone basin smooth under your fingers. The city feels alive, comfortably ordinary. Whitewashed walls rise around you, some adorned with faded frescoes of gods and nymphs, their colors softened by the sun. You brush past hanging vines heavy with grapes, their leaves rustling like whispers. The air smells of wood smoke from hearth fires, mingled with the sharp tang of urine from the public latrines. Nothing glamorous, just the honest scent of daily life. Overhead, laundry flaps lazily on lines strung between buildings, tunics and togas drying in the breeze. Everything moves at a gentle pace, as if the world has all the time it needs. Imagine a baker named Midia, flour dusting his sturdy hands like fresh snow, mid-kneed at his oven in a shop just off the Forum. You step inside his doorway, the heat from the stone oven wrapping around you like a warm blanket. Midia's arms flex rhythmically as he works the dough, his face lined from years of this labor. But his eyes hold a quiet contentment. Steam rises from loaves already baking, filling the air with that irresistible yeasty warmth. He hums a tuneless melody, perhaps thinking of his wife stirring porridge in the back room or his young son playing nearby with a wooden toy cart. Midia worries about the grain prices rising again, debts to the miller nagging at him, but today he pushes it aside. There's bread to sell, customers to greet with a nod. 2 loaves for a small as? He asks a passing neighbor, his voice gravelly and familiar. Across the way, at the Filonica laundry workshop humming with activity, you find Julia, the laundress, her hands red from the lye and urine mixture she uses to clean the fabrics. She's smoothing a fine wool tunic over a wooden board, her fingers deft and sure, pressing out wrinkles with a stone tool. The steam from the vats curls around her like morning mist, carrying the alkaline bite that stings your nose just a little. Julia chats with a client, a matron fussing over a stained hem. "It'll be ready by noon, Domina," Julia assures her, her voice steady and reassuring. In her mind, she tallies the day's earnings enough, perhaps, to buy a new pair of earrings for the festival next week. Her daughter helps nearby, folding linens with small, careful hands, giggling at a soap bubble floating free. Life feels predictable here, a steady cycle of wash, rinse, dry. Not far off, in a narrow taberna along a side street, Lucius the merchant arranges his wares. Jars of olives glistening in oil, amphorae of wine stoppered with rags, bundles of dried herbs. You lean against the counter, feeling the cool marble under your elbows, as he haggles with a customer over a handful of wrinkled olives. "These are from my cousin's grove best in Campania," Lucius says, his tone warm but firm, a smile creasing his weathered face. The sun filters through the shop's awning, casting dappled shadows on sacks of grain. Lucius thinks of his evening plans, a dice game with friends at the tavern, maybe a cup of mulsum to sweeten the night. His apprentice sweeps the floor nearby, the broom's soft swish a constant undertone. Money's tight, as always, creditors looming, but the shop is his, passed down from his father, and that's enough for now. These weren't emperors or gladiators, but ordinary people living their final, quiet moments in Pompeii before Vesuvius erupted. What were their last thoughts, their last actions, as ash rained down and history changed forever? We're here to uncover the heartbreaking, human stories beyond the grand narratives of this ancient catastrophe. You wander deeper into the city, past the grand villas of the wealthy with their airy atriums and painted gardens. But your path lingers on the quieter insulae, the apartment blocks, where most folks like Medea, Julia, and Lucius make their homes. Doors stand open, inviting glimpses inside. A woman grinding grain with a rotary mill, the stone rasping rhythmically, a man repairing a sandal, his all-piercing leather with precise spokes. The forum comes into view, a wide-open square where the heart of Pompeii beats softly. Temple steps gleam white in the sunlight, priests in white robes murmuring prayers to Apollo or Jupiter. Merchants set up stalls, laying out garlands of flowers and small bronze statues. You hear the clip-clop of a donkey laden with firewood, its hooves echoing off the porticos. Boys fish in the pools around the statues, their lines bobbing lazily. Gossip flows like the fountains. "Did you hear? That villa on the edge bought a slave from Gaul. My brother's ship came in late storms off Sicilia." It's all so mundane, so soothingly familiar, the kind of talk that fills mornings everywhere. What if you knew, in your final hours, that your everyday routine would become a frozen testament to an unimaginable disaster? For the people of Pompeii, that was their reality. We often see the grand ruins, but rarely the intimate details, the half-eaten meal, the unfinished letter, the beloved pet. This journey takes you beyond the iconic casts to explore the poignant, everyday lives of unsung residents whose worlds were abruptly halted on that fateful day. You pause at a thermopolium, a street bar with tall dahlias sunk into the counter, filled with hot stews and cooled wines. The proprietor ladles out lentils for a worker, steam rising in lazy spirals. You sip from a shared cup, the wine tart on your tongue, warming your belly as you watch the crowd. Can you truly understand the scale of history? Its most famous disaster without walking in the final footsteps of its ordinary citizens? Not emperors or philosophers, but the humble baker, the busy laundress, the local shopkeeper. On that day in 79 AD, their lives were caught in Vesuvius's fury, leaving behind a chillingly intimate record. Tonight, you'll witness Pompeii's last day through the eyes of those who simply lived and loved. Their stories finally brought to light. The morning stretches on, the sun climbing higher, shadows shortening on the basalt-paved streets. You feel the growing warmth on your shoulders, a light sheen of sweat forming as you climb a gentle hill toward the suburbs. Back at Midia's bakery, the first customers have come and gone. He wipes flour from his brow with the back of his hand, leaving a white streak. His wife calls from inside. The boy's fever broke past the honey. Relief softens his features. Plans for a family meal solidify in his mind. He slides another tray into the oven, the door creaking shut, embers glowing like distant stars. The scent clings to your clothes as you leave, comforting and homey. Julia at the Phalonica stomps a pile of togas in a vat, her feet churning the soapy water with steady splashes. A neighbor drops off a bundle, complaining of wine stains from last night's party. Men and their symposia. Julia mutters with a chuckle, her voice carrying over the steam. She dreams quietly of her daughter learning the trade, maybe marrying well one day a shopkeeper like Lucius. Perhaps. The rhythm of her work is meditative, feet padding, fabrics sloshing. Lucius tallies his sales on a wax tablet, stylus scratching softly. A big order from a Villa Cook-Olives and oil brightens his morning. He jokes with his apprentice about the pretty girl at the fountain, the boy's cheeks flushing. Focus on the herbs, lad, Lucius says kindly. The shop feels secure, its walls sturdy against the world. You meander through residential streets, narrower now, where multi-story homes crowd together. Balconies overhang, pots of herbs thriving in the sun. A dog barks lazily from a doorway, tail wagging as you pass. Inside one home, you glimpse a family at breakfast, bread dipped in olive oil, cheese crumbling onto plates. Quiet talk of the day's chores. The father kisses his wife's forehead before heading to the fields beyond the walls. Children recite lessons by rote. Voice is blending into a soft chant. The markets bustle gently. Fishmongers display silvery catches from the bay, scales glinting. You pick up a hot barley cake from a vendor, its crust crackling under your teeth, honey dripping warm down your chin. Women haggle over vegetables, cabbages, leeks, garlic bulbs piled high, too high for these wilted leaves. One protests, but her laughter betrays the game. The air thickens with voices, a tapestry of Latin laced with Greek words from traders. Time drifts like smoke from a hearth. Mid-morning brings more heat, the sun baking the stones until they radiate warmth up through your sandals. You seek shade under a portico, watching slaves carry water jars balanced on heads, their steps graceful and sure. A group of women gather at a well, filling pitchers with gossip about a recent wedding lavish. They say, with peacocks and dancers dot in the amphitheater district, preparations for games hum along. Workers sweep the arena sand, brooms whispering across the ground. You imagine the excitement of past days, but today it's com ropes being mended, nets checked. An old man dozes in the stands, snoring softly, his hat tipped over his eyes. Julia finishes a batch, hanging tunics to dry. The wind tugs at them, making shapes dance like ghosts. She pauses to stretch, feeling the ache in her back, but smiles at her daughter's proud grin. "You'll be better than me someday," she says, ruffling the girl's hair. Lucius steps out for air, locking his shop with a heavy bar. He chats with Medea across the street. Good loaves today? And they share a laugh about rising prices. Plans form. Meet at the tavern later, dice and wine. Medea serves a steady stream, coins clinking into his pouch. A loyal customer lingers, talking of dreams a house by the sea someday. Medea nods, envious but content. His ovens glow steadily, promising more bread. You wander to the edge of town, where vineyards stretch toward Vesuvius. The mountain looms serene, its slopes green with vines and olive groves. Shepherds call to flocks, bells tinkling faintly. The air here is purer, scented with wild thyme and sea breeze. Birds wheel overhead, their cries distant and peaceful. Back in the city, noon approaches. The sun beats down, but fountains offer relief. You splash water on your face, cool rivulets trickling down your neck. Street performers tune lyres, notes floating lazily. A storyteller gathers kids, spinning tales of Hercules in a voice like rolling waves. Life pulses on, unhurried. Asterisk families eat simple lunches, olives, bread, cheese shared on doorsteps. Lovers steal glances, hands brushing. Elders nap in courtyards, flies buzzing softly around them. Midia breaks for his own meal. Sitting with family, soup steams in bowls, conversation light. The mountain looks clear today, someone notes. Laughter follows old quakes forgotten. Julia eats cheese and figs, feet soaking in a basin. Her mind wanders to evening prayers at the temple. Lucius shares wine with a friend, toasting small fortunes. The city basks, ordinary and eternal. You feel it to the comfort of routine, the promise of evening rest. No shadows of doom yet, just the soft weave of lives intertwined. As the sun arcs toward afternoon, shadows lengthen again. You follow them into quieter alleys, where craftspeople work, potters shaping clay with wet hands. The wheels hum hypnotic, blacksmiths hammering softly, sparks drifting like fireflies. A carpenter planes wood, shavings curling to the ground like golden scrolls. Perfume makers crush petals in mortars, scents of rose and myrtle wafting out. You inhale deeply, the fragrance clinging to your tunic. In a small garden, a woman tends roses, pruning with careful snips. Bees hum among blooms, pollen dusting their legs. Children play knucklebones in the dust, bones clicking. A girl braids her doll's hair from yarn, humming. The baths call the Stabian baths, steam rising from caldarium doors. Men and women separate, but the sounds mingle. Splashes, laughter, scrapes of strigils on skin. You imagine entering, warm water enveloping you, oils slick and soothing. Conversation bubbles, politics, scandals, dreams. Outside, graffiti adorns walls' election slogans. Love notes, Restitutus loves Iris, faded but human. Midia's shop quiets as lunch ends. He cleans ovens, ash smudging his arms. Asterisk thinks of debts, but shakes it off tomorrow's worry. Julia folds last tunics, stacks them neatly. Client praises. Coins exchange hands. Lucius restocks, whistling. Apprentice learns to haggle. The afternoon lazes. You stroll ramparts, overlooking the sea. Ships dot the harbor, sails billowing. Fishermen mend nets, voices carrying. Vesuvius watches, silent Dotten homes. Siestas, shutters closed. Air still, snores, soft breaths. Napkins flutter. Dogs curl in shade. A cat stretches on a wall. Eyes half closed. Time flows like honey. You return to the forum. Afternoon trade picks up. Vendors refresh stalls fresh bread from Midia. Perhaps he sells the last loaves, pouch heavier. Julia delivers bundles, walking streets with purpose. Lucius closes early. No, business good. Sun dips lower, light golden. Shadows stretch long. Cooling air. Evening plans stir. Dinners, baths, tavern. Families reunite. Husbands home. Kisses. Meals prepared. Midia helps wife chop onions. Tears mixing with laughter. Julia bathes daughter. Stories told. Lucius polishes jars. Eager for dice. The city softens into dusk. Lamps flickering to life. Oil lamps glow warm through windows. Street lamps not yet, but braziers kindle. You feel the day's end. Comforting. No one knows the whispers building beneath. Asterisk evening has settled softly upon Pompeii. The air cooling as the last rays of sunlight slide down from the rooftops and paint the city with fading gold. You walk once more along the quieting streets. The stones now cool to a gentle warmth beneath your feet. The sounds that filled the morning have softened. The braying of donkeys replaced by murmured laughter outside tavern doors. The ring of hammers distant now, replaced by the bubbling chatter of fountains echoing through narrow passages. The sky above stretches wide and calm, streaked in rose and lavender. Asterisk you catch the faint scent of roasting fish, of spiced wine lifting from doorways, and the sharper tang of olive smoke curling from kitchen fires. For a brief, perfect moment, everything feels still, suspended in the easy rhythm of another ordinary evening. A breeze slides down from the mountain, cool against your skin, carrying the faintest hint of something sulfur. Perhaps, though no one pays it any mind. The people of Pompeii are used to strange scents, to tremors beneath their feet. The mountain, after all, has always been there, a silent giant watching from beyond the vineyards. Midia finishes his day at the bakery, the ovens cooling to embers. Inside, the air still hums with warmth. The last loaf sits on the shelf, its crust golden and perfect. Asterisk. He runs a cloth across the counter before locking the door, wrapping leftover bread for his family's supper. His wife's laughter filters from the next room, and when he steps outside, the twilight washes his face in bronze light. He feels proud, tired, but proud. Another good day's work. Down the lane, Julia gathers the last dried tunics. Folding them neatly into baskets, she hums a soft, rhythmic tune that blends with the murmur of evening. Her daughter runs barefoot to help. her tunic wrinkled, her hands still smelling faintly of soap. Together, they carry the baskets home, their laughter mingling with the fading noise of the city. Julia's shoulders ache, her palms rough from lie and labor. But there is satisfaction in the day's end. She imagines tomorrow, another batch of togas to wash, another sunrise just like this one. Lucius, in his shop, pours wine into 2 cups, sharing it with a fellow merchant. A toast. He says softly, to ordinary days and profitable ones. If we're lucky, they laugh. The cicadas hum in the distance, a low, steady pulse wrapping the city in sound. He leans against his doorway, looking toward the mountain, the faintest spiral of something gray trailing up from its peak. He squints, then shakes his head. Just a trick of light, he decides. Smoke from a distant farmer's burn, perhaps. As night blooms, Pompeii glows. Small lumps line the streets, flickering points of oil-fed flame that cast soft halos on the stone. The taverns come alive. You wander past one now, hearing the gentle clatter of dice, the soft rise and fall of laughter. Clay cups clink. Someone begins to sing a slow, lilting song about sailors and winds. Outside, the street sleeps in amber light. From the nearby temple, a priest calls out a blessing to Venus, his voice low and rhythmic. The marble steps gleam faintly beneath the moonlight. A cat darts between columns, vanishing into shadow. Up above, the stars scatter freely, their pale shimmer rippling faintly in the dark sky. You tilt your head back, feeling the immensity of the world above, the mountain's silhouette rising behind it. Massive but tranquil, still asleep or so it seems. You pass by homes where families finish their meals. The air is full of gentle, human sounds, spoons scraping bowls, quiet conversations. The rustle of bedsheets being shaken out for sleep. At one open window, you glimpse a mother braiding her daughter's hair by lamplight, golden strands catching the glow. Next door, a man scribbles on a wax tablet, recording debts perhaps, or writing a letter he'll never send. The faint scratching fills the room for a while before silence replaces it. Somewhere farther off, a dog barks persistent, nervous, a sound that shivers faintly against the calm. A horse stamps its hoof. Then quiet returns. Pompeii eases deeper into night. In the small hours, the earth stirs so softly that, at first, no one notices. A tremor shivers through the ground like the breath of something old. A cup rattles against a table. A dog whines again. Then nothing. The stillness resumes, heavy and endless. You lie in your narrow bed, the woven blanket warm against your skin. The distant murmurs of life just a heartbeat away. The faint sulfur scent drifts again through the open window. Perhaps it's only smoke from some brazier on the street below. You close your eyes and drift, half-dash dreaming. Morning comes, but not quite like before. The sun rises behind a hazy veil, light diffused and strange. The air tastes dry, almost metallic. You awaken to muted sounds, less chatter, fewer carts. Even the birds seem hesitant. Out in the street, a few neighbors gather, looking toward the mountain, where the smallest puff of dark smoke curls upward into the pale sky. Midias stands beside them, shading his eyes. It wasn't there yesterday, someone says. He shrugs. The gods are testing the winds, he jokes, and his laugh eases the moment. But he feels it an unease, low in the belly, still. There's bread to bake, dough already mixed. Life continues, as it always has dot at the Philharmonica. Julie arrives to find poor water pressure at the fountain. A few other workers are there already, murmuring about a quake in the night. Barely a tremor, she says, setting down her basket. She starts the fire beneath the water vat, the smell of smoke soon curling upward. Heavier now than usual. Better to keep busy, she tells her daughter, though her eyes flick once toward the mountain dot in the marketplace. Lucius arranges olives and jars of wine. The usual crowd is thinner this morning. Fewer coins clink. Strange air today. A customer comments, sniffing. Lucius nods, uneasy. The wind shifts, bringing the faintest patter against the tiles above. Fine dust ash drifting down like grey. Snowflakes. People reach upward, ponds catching the flakes in bemusement. What's this? Children ask, laughing. A merchant across the square holds out his hand, brushes it away. Just dust from the mountain. He says, the wind's blowing north. You walk with them, gaze upward. The sky has an uncanny pallor to it now. The sun, a weak white disk, glows dimly through gauze-like clouds. The edges of roofs blur behind a faint, drifting veil. Ash falls gently, collecting in the seams of walls, on shoulders and hair. Some mutter prayers to Vulcan. Others joke and move on. The tremors continue, light but persistent. Wine jars tremble against shelves. A goat bleats nervously. Still, life stirs forward. The baker's oven roars back to life. Loaves must still rise. Midia's son coughs, rubbing soot from his face. He looks toward Vesuvius, it seems, taller now, sharper against the sky. Lucius watches the square. Shoppers move faster now, shawls pulled tight. Their words shorter. The ash thickens a soft rain turning streets grey. The air smells of minerals, of heat buried beneath stone. Still no cause for panic, most say. The gods sometimes speak this way. By midday, the light begins to dim unnaturally. The color draining from walls and faces. The mountain's column rises. Higher now, a towering pillar of darkness flattening into strange shapes above. Birds wheel frantically, losing direction. You hear it, then the first deep rumble. It rolls across the bay like thunder, but lower, heavier, steady. Cups fall, cart wheels shudder, and a child begins to cry. Midia steps outside, flower clinging to his arms, staring upward. The noise builds. Juliet clutches her daughter's hand, guiding her toward the doorway. Her heart beats fast, though she smiles to calm the girl. Lucius closes the shutters on his shop as pebbles light at first begin to fall along with ash. Tap, tap, tap. Stay indoors, someone shouts. You do. The sound outside grows louder. A ceaseless whisper of falling ash. Inside, the air turns thick and close. You brush grey dust from your hair, your lashes. Even when you breathe shallowly, you can taste grit on your tongue. The tremors come more often now, each one shaking the table. Dust drifting from the ceiling. Outside the windows, the world has changed, streets blurred under a slow, grey snowfall. The roofs bear dust like morning frost. Some laugh nervously. The mountain sneezed, they say, but others gather belongings into carts. Then, sometime after noon, the first real explosion booms. It tears through the low hum of conversation, so loud you feel it more than hear it. Windows rattle in their frames. People spill into the street, eyes wide. Dogs bark. Somewhere, someone screams a god's name. The sky darkens further. A vast plume now towers from Vesuvius black, angry. Rising higher than the eye can follow, lightning flickers within it, thin as a spider web of fire. The wind shifts again, heavier now, carrying thicker ash. Pebbles fall faster, louder, bouncing against tiles. The crowd begins to move to run. Midia locks his door behind him, calling for his wife. The boy, he shouts, lifting the child into his arms. His wife carries a sack of bread. They move together into the street, shoulders brushing, others fleeing the same way. Julia hugs her daughter, clutching a wool shawl over their heads as larger stones begin to strike. The noise is unrelenting, a storm made of earth. A roof collapses somewhere nearby with a burst of dust. Julia startles, but keeps moving. Lucius tries to close his shutters more tightly, but the wind pushes them open again with a groan. Ash floods in, coating his wares. He curses softly, grabs a few valuables, stuffs them into a leather pouch. Outside, the air feels thick, suffocating. He covers his face with his sleeve. You move with the crowd, the world narrowing to the rhythm of your breath and the grit between your teeth. Every inhalation tastes of heat, of minerals, of fear. Still, there's calm at your center, the slow motion of disbelief. Not panic, not yet. You hear voices praying, others shouting for relatives, some laughing nervously still. The temple bells ring out, though no priest answers them. Above, the mountain roars again. The day that began so gently has turned alien. Dark as dusk, though the sun still hangs beyond the veil. Each breath feels shorter. You wipe your brow. It comes away black. A shop sign falls with a crash, startling a donkey into a panicked run. Its hooves beat against the stones like thunder. Through the thick ashfall, lamps begin to glow, a surreal sight against the premature darkness. Torches flicker outside taverns, new lights against an old fear. Some believe it will pass. The ash will fall, and the gods will come. Others know this is no passing storm. Midia's family shelters near the city walls, in an open courtyard where the air is still breathable. His son clings to his leg. The baker wipes ash from the boy's curls, murmuring reassurance that sounds hollow but loving. Nearby, Julia and her daughter crouch under a roof beam, shielding their heads with cloth. They can barely see the neighboring house now, so thick the veil of falling dust. Lucius, further down the street, digs into his pouch for his key, decides not to bother locking up. The goods mean nothing against what looms overhead. Another tremor shudders through the earth. This one harsh enough to knock you to a knee. The sound it makes, a subterranean groan, as though the ground itself resists being torn, echoes long after. Somewhere, water splashes from cracked fountains. The basins overflow with grey sludge. The ash now falls in sheets, Small stones pelt rooftops in relentless rhythm. You can barely see your own hands. People wrap cloth around their faces, voices muffled. The air smells now of brimstone and heat. Medea looks toward the sea. What can be seen of it through the smoke the waves withdraw, shrinking from the shore? He frowns, not understanding. Julius stares upward, the sky boiling, illuminated sporadically by lightning that never touches the ground. The flashes freeze her face in white terror before melting back into dim gray. Still, they do not yet flee far. Those who remain tell themselves it will end soon, that the fires of the mountain will settle. But even as these words form, they are lost under the continuing roar, the grinding of collapsing walls, the crack of roof tiles under falling stones, ash piles knee-deep in alleys. Children stumble through it as if trudging snow. You steady yourself on a wall, feeling the rough surface gritty and warm beneath your palm. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the sea again, but fainter. Wrong. The mountain pulses, its heart now awake and furious dot, and yet, here in the choking twilight, time still draws slow, the rhythm of heartbeats steadying. The quiet between blasts stretching longer. Fear gives way not to chaos, but to endurance. Ordinary people clinging to one another, waiting for the world to come. The night that follows is long, ashy, and heavy, the city hidden beneath its own grey burden. The stars erased, fires flicker across the slopes. Families huddle close, arms around each other. Some hide in basements, others sleep from exhaustion, lulled by the muffled thunder. The final stage is yet to come. But for now, Pompeii breathes unevenly, warily still alive. You awaken to silence, but not the peaceful kind dot. It's a strange, dense stillness that seems to press against your ears, broken only by the occasional patter of ash slipping from rooftops. When you breathe, the air is thicker now. It clings to your throat like dust-laden wool. The morning light doesn't come. Only a dim, reddish glow filters through the haze, painting walls and faces in tones of copper and smoke. The sun is gone behind the mountain's breath, and the day feels lost before it has even begun. You rub your eyes, ash coming away on your fingertips. Around you, others stir neighbors, family, children still half asleep. The scent of sulfur burns faintly in your nose. Distant thunder rolls across the horizon. But this thunder never fades, never ends. Pompeii has entered its second day of silence and dread. Medea sits with his family in the courtyard, the remains of bread scattered before them. No one can eat now. The boy coughs, soft and persistent. Medea pulls his wife closer and glances toward the mountain. What can be seen of it? Through the ash-filled air, it looms enormous now, a pillar of darkness crowned with fire. Lightning flashes within it, jagged and quick. Each burst freezes the world in awful stillness for a heartbeat before plunging it back into gloom. Julia stands near her threshold, arm around her daughter. They had tried to flee earlier, but turned back the ash to thick, the stones falling to hard. "We wait," she whispers. Her voice is rough from the fumes. The girl shivers against her side, clutching a small wooden doll whose painted face is half rubbed away. Julia strokes the child's hair, murmuring old nursery rhymes through cracked lips. Every sound the trembling walls, the low moan of wine seems to near, to alive. Lucius stays in his shop for now. The shutters he nailed shut in haste last night still hold. Though the air inside is almost unbreathable, a layer of fine ash lies over everything: his counters, his jars, even the wine inside the amphorae. He sits on a stool, head in his hands. The occasional crash outside makes his heart jolt each time a collapsing roof, perhaps, or another neighbor hurrying past. When he finally gathers what little strength remains, he opens the door to a world transformed. Outside, the streets are nearly unrecognizable. The ash lies waist-deep in some places, drifting higher against doors and walls. The once colorful frescoes are now muted gray, their gods and heroes smudged beyond recognition. You wade through it, your steps muffled and slow. Each footstep leaves a hollow sound, soft but final, like walking through memory itself. The city's sounds are fading. No merchants calling, no children's laughter. Only the distant rumble of the mountain, growing deeper, more insistent. A dog trots by, fur matted, nose low to the ground. It pauses, then slips away between abandoned carts dot in the forum. Shapes move through the dim light, people clutching bundles, heads wrapped in cloth. They call out to each other, voices broken by fear. Toward the sea, a man shouts. The harbor's clearer, but even there, the ash falls thick, and the ships rock restlessly in the gray waves. Their sails blackened. The air grows hotter with every passing hour. Each breath burns slightly now. You taste iron and stone. The falling ash shifts to something heavier. Pebbles first, then pieces of pumice that strike the ground with dull thuds. You see people lift their arms to shield their heads, stumbling forward through the storm. Midia holds his son high, trudging toward the southern gate. His wife carries their bread and a few coins, nothing else. They move past fallen beams, walls cracked open like old pottery. He remembers the bakery, its hearth still glowing when they fled. That life feels centuries away. Careful, he says softly, guiding his family through the narrowing street. Almost there, Julia follows another route, toward the Stabian baths. She thinks the sturdy walls might hold. Inside, a handful of citizens have gathered, faces gray with soot, eyes wide and hollow. They huddle together, whispering prayers to the household gods. Julia sits her daughter on a bench, brushing soot from the child's cheeks. But fresh ash settles again at once, erasing her effort. Her throat aches from breathing shallowly. She gives the girl a damp cloth, tells her to hold it over her mouth. Lucius, meanwhile, tries again for the harbor. The ash there lies thinner, carried inland by the wind. But the world grows darker still. He can no longer see Vesuvius, only fire flickering somewhere behind the veil. The air trembles with an awful roar that rolls like surf against stone. People pour toward him now, clutching whatever they can: scrolls, statues, cages with birds fluttering inside. The birds fall silent soon after. Their first roots collapse in earnest. It's not dramatic, just a dull, final sound, the sigh of wood and tile giving way. Each one adds to the sense that Pompeii is dissolving around you, piece by piece. Still, some cling to their homes, unwilling to abandon everything they know. An old couple kneel before their household shrine, hands clasped. The air crackles faintly with static electricity, a strange, invisible tension coiling everywhere at once. Even through fear, ordinary instincts remain. A woman yells at her son to fetch water. A man tries to save his mule, pulling at the tether until both sink into ash. Life persists, stubbornly human. But then another sound. A sound that cuts through every other. A roar like the breaking of earth itself. The mountain begins to collapse inward, its summit vanishing into chaos. Shock waves rush outward, flattening forests on the slopes. Somewhere beyond your sight, the first pyroclastic surges tear through the countryside's superheated clouds of ash, and gas flowing faster than wind itself. Pompeii doesn't hear them yet, but their coming rides beneath the rumble a deeper note in the earth. An undertone you can feel through the soles of your feet. People stop moving. The silence between explosions is worse than the noise. Midia glances toward the sea again. The horizon is gone. Blackness rolls in from all sides, thick and total. He tightens his grip on his boy's hand. "Keep your eyes closed," he says, though his own won't obey. He turns once more toward the north, the mountain a pillar of flame rising in the distance, and then shields his family as stones begin to rain hard. Fast, relentless. Julia huddles under the arch of the bathhouse, dust falling like water. She covers her daughter with her shawl, whispering stories she barely remembers, tales of heroes and gods. But her words grow quieter with each breath. "It's just the wind," she tells the girl, though the wind outside screams like a living thing. Lucius reaches the edge of the forum again, disoriented. His feet sink ankle deep. The lamps burn out one by one, their flames smothered. The air presses down hard now, cruelly hot. Around him, people stagger and fall, coughing as they grope through darkness. Thunderous cracks echo above, unseen. Somewhere, an entire building collapses, the sound immense and muffled. You keep moving, though you cannot say why. The body chooses motion when the mind cannot think. The ash is knee-deep now, choking every sound, absorbing every footfall. Only the rhythm of breath remains quick, desperate. Human. When the final daylight vanishes completely, the last of Pompeii's courage flickers. The eruption has entered its full fury. It happens quickly in geological time, but to those within it, the minutes stretch endlessly. Each heartbeat seems a borrowed gift. The air temperature spikes. Some clutch amulets, whispering to household spirits. Others pray to Neptune, to Venus, to any god who might listen. The gods are silent. Midia and his family find temporary shelter near a portico, crouched together. The boy's face is gray, streaked with tears. He calls for his father once more before resting his head against his chest. The baker strokes his hair and looks upward at the unseen sky. Even in terror, he thinks of his oven, the simple rhythm that built his days. He wonders if bread will ever rise again in Pompeii. Julia, trapped with others in the bathhouse, cannot tell time anymore. The darkness is complete now, so thick she can barely see the outline of her daughter against her shoulder. Heat seeps in from the ground. The air feels alive with vibration. The walls groan. She whispers the child's name over and over. until her voice becomes part of the surrounding murmur of the city's last prayers. Lucius stumbles through the forum's colonnade, unable to find direction. He falls once, then again, each time slower. The air glows faintly orange now from firelight or molten rock. Who can tell? He thinks of his shop, the olives in rich oil, the taste of wine sweet on his tongue. He cannot imagine that it all still exists somewhere in the dark. The stones fall heavier. Pumice clatters on rooftops, breaks tiles, dents skulls. You shelter beside a wall, cloth over your face. Through a break in the smoke, you glimpse the mountain as a living torch, its peak exploding upward in fire and ash, its sides streaked with rivers of molten rock. It is both terrible and breathtaking, a sight meant for gods alone. The ground quakes continuously now. Statues topple from their pedestals, cracking across faces of marble gods. Glass shatters, the fountains go still, and then comes the sound anew, and terrible one like 1,000 boiling cauldrons unleashed at once. The pyroclastic flow, unseen but unstoppable, rushes down Vesuvius's flank. Superheated, silent until it isn't. It's said that those near Herculaneum suffocated before they could scream. Pompeii, farther south, waits a few moments more, the faint glow on the horizon growing brighter. You feel the wind shift a final warning, though few understand it. Medea lives his child. Julia clutches her daughter. Lucius closes his eyes. The sound engulfs the city. A wall of heat and dust slams outward, flooding every street, every courtyard, every breath. It rushes faster than thought, turning air itself into fire. Roofs collapse in an instant. The sea steamrolls and hisses. Everything alive becomes still within a heartbeat. No scream escapes the lungs, have no air left to give. The world ends in silence once more. But time has its own strange mercy. Centuries pass. The ash cools, hardens, buries. The city becomes memory, then myth. Rain falls and washes the slopes clean. Generations plant vines again upon the fertile soil. Rome itself will fall and vanish before Pompeii's story rises once more. When the diggers arrive nearly to millennia later, their shovels strike not earth, but time. Beneath their feet, they uncover walls painted with still bright colors. Loaves of bread carbonized, but whole. Jars sealed as though yesterday left them there. And then the forms. Cavities in the hardened ash, shaped like bodies curled mid-motion. When filled with plaster, their delicate outlines emerge. A man shielding his face. A woman clutching a child. A dog still chained by its collar. Frozen gestures. Final breaths made eternal dot, and among them, perhaps, our baker Medea, his arms still wrapped around his son. Julia, folded over her daughter. Lucius, lying near the threshold of his shop, key still clutched in hand. You stand above them now in your mind's eye, 2,000 years away. The city once loud with life, now quiet as a held breath. The same fountains stand dry. The same tools rest where they fell. The mountain towers still, calm and green again, as if nothing happened. But you know, the air itself holds memory. The same dust that once took life also preserved it, captured its gestures, its closeness, its love. The story of Pompeii isn't only tragedy. It's a reminder that the small and ordinary are eternal too, tonight, as ash gave way to silence. A city became immortal not in marble or myth, but in the tender, fleeting beauty of its everyday lives. The dust has settled, though not yet in your mind. It takes a long moment before the silence stops ringing in your ears, before the image of that final storm loosens its hold. When the roar of Vesuvius fades, only stillness remains. A stillness so complete that you can almost hear the heartbeat of the earth itself. You step into that silence now, centuries later. The sunlight is bright again, unfiltered and gentle, falling upon what remains of Pompeii. The air smells faintly of warm stone and dry grass. Overhead, gulls circle lazily, calling to one another in the soft morning air. Nothing remains of the chaos, not the screams nor the fire, only the quiet order of ruined dot as you walk through the narrow streets. Everything feels strangely preserved, as though the city had merely paused, awaiting your return. The ruts from carts still groove the stones, running straight and deep. Faded graffiti scrawled on the walls catches the light. Political slogans, jokes, declarations of love. You run your hand along the cool plaster, its surface pitted with time. A chill moves through you. This writing, it's from them, the same hands that once brushed ash from their shoulders, the same hearts that beat beneath that ashen sky. Historians would later say that Pompeii became a time capsule, an accidental museum of Roman life. But it doesn't feel like a museum. It feels like breath suspended, like the city is only sleeping. Its people dreaming beneath a blanket of dust. You pass bakery ovens still filled with loaves of bread, their shapes perfectly intact. Blackened by heat, but still rising as if waiting to be served. A jar of olives rests sealed, oil long congealed yet preserving the fruits inside. On a table sits a bronze lamp knocked askew by some forgotten tremor. You stop, imagining Midia here. His shop is not hard to find. Archaeologists once uncovered it, a small bakery, with 4 ovens and grinding stones still in place. The air in that space feels heavier, as though the memory hasn't quite thinned. You can almost hear the familiar creak of the paddles scraping against the oven mouth, the low hum of his morning tune. You picture him turning, calling to his boy, smiling in that same timeless way that laborers do when the day's first bread is done. And then outside, you find Julia's world. The Phalonica stands almost intact, its vats and pools still carved in stone. You trace their edges with your fingers, rough, cold, enduring. This was no noblewoman's domain. This was a place of toil, of rhythm and heat. It speaks now of ordinary strength, of arms that scrubbed, of water that steamed, of laughter echoing across wet floors. You close your eyes and imagine Julia's voice, steady and pragmatic, calling to her daughter through the mist. It lingers for a breath, then fades like vapor. Farther along, near the Forum, Lucius's taberna reopens in suggestion, walls half standing. The counter still lined with indentations where amphorae once stood. You imagine him wiping the marble smooth, ranging jars, weighing his goods. The scent of olives and wine hangs ghost-like in the air. A coin shines faintly in the dust, and for an instant, you imagine his fingers, counting, measuring, hoping. His life too is here, caught between moments that never finished. Everywhere you walk, their stories resurface. The casts, the defining relics of Pompeii, are not macabre, as the early visitors thought. They are peaceful, strangely tender. The plaster, poured into voids left by vanished bodies, capture gestures rather than forms. A woman curled around a child, a man shielding his face, a dog still twisting at its chain. Each one is a whisper, a message the centuries could not erase. You stand before one now, the faint outline of a human figure lying on its side. The details are blurred, the curve of the spine, the hollow of the hand, but the emotion is unmistakable. It's a human moment, caught forever in mid-act of survival, or comfort, or prayer. In that shape you recognize every person from that final day. Not just Medea, or Julia, or Lucius, but all of them, people who thought tomorrow existed. It's humbling. How quiet it is here. Birds nest in the old rafters. Wildflowers paint cracks in the stone. Grass sways gently beside steps once polished smooth by sandals. The tragedy has softened. Time has turned it beautiful again. You might think of Vesuvius, now green and majestic, a mountain of vineyards and trails. It lies to the north still, curving high into the sky with the serenity of sleep. But beneath that calm crust, the power remains. The same mountain that destroyed also nourished. Its soil, rich in minerals, feeding grapes, olives, and life. Some say that's the greatest irony. That death gave rebirth. That the volcano which wiped this city from existence ensured that future generations would thrive on the same ground. As you walk toward the edge of the site, the breeze shifts. It carries the scent of rosemary and salt, the same wind that once touched those lost lives. You pass homes where wall paintings shine still, ocean blues, ochres, deep reds, scenes of gardens, of musicians, of gods smiling. They feel impossibly alive, their pigments a heartbeat against the grey stone. The people of Pompeii surrounded themselves with beauty. Even their ordinary spaces, kitchens, corridors, baths, danced with color and myth. For them, art was not luxury, it was breath. You step into one such atrium. Water once gathered in the impluvium beneath the open roof, now gleaming with sunlight. The air feels cool, resonant with echoes. The walls depict Dionysus beneath vines, surrounded by satyrs with painted laughter. A cracked mosaic on the floor still shows a dog. Inscription beneath it, Cave Canem, beware of the dog. You smile softly. That humor survived everything. Everywhere you turn in Pompeii, you find human touches like these. Reminders that the people here were just like you. They argued, they loved, they planned their days with small hopes. They had debts and dinners, promises and habits. When the end came, it wasn't with a philosopher's grace, but with the overwhelming bewilderment of ordinary souls caught in the impossible. That's what their city tells you now. Not a story of punishment or spectacle, but of lives quietly lived, suddenly interrupted. Archaeologists have catalogued thousands of small details. Bread loaves scored into 8 sections for sale. Pots still bearing fingerprints. Coins clasped in hands. Fishing nets tangled beside the shore. One wall near the forum carries graffiti scrawled days, perhaps hours before the eruption. Tomorrow. We feast. The tomorrow never came, but the handwriting remains, almost playful. A joke, frozen beside tragedy. You linger in a side street, where the paving stones are uneven and grass grows between them. It's empty now. You can almost hear footsteps echo here. The same sound you heard in the story's first morning, when carts rolled and children laughed. That sound is gone, but its memory hums faintly beneath the silence, like distant music through the walls of time. The sunlight deepens, and you feel an old truth settle quietly in your chest. History is not made by battles or kings. It's held together by moments like these, small acts, tender gestures, lives unremarkable until they vanish. Pompeii reminds us how fragile the ordinary truly is. The next time you pass a bakery, smell fresh bread rising from the oven, or hear water running through a fountain, you might remember Midia and his steady hands at the hearth. When you scrub a shirt clean, or fold something warm for someone you love, Julia might cross your mind. And when you weigh your own worries, debts, duties, plans, think of Lucius under that fading sun, hoping for one more good day. The city sleeps, but its people still move gently through you. As you stand now, the horizon glows soft with the late light of evening. The same sun that rose over Pompeii 2,000 years ago sets beyond modern Naples. The Bay of Naples sparkles quietly, waves lapping at the shore. Somewhere beyond sight, Vesuvius' slope catches gold and shadow, as if the mountain itself remembers. You take a breath, and in that breath, for just a moment, the distance between then and now dissolves. You feel their hum, small lives, bright and fleeting, preserved by chance, remembered by choice. Their story became an echo passed down through the ages, and now it rests here in your mind, calm and full of light. The ancient dust returns to soil. The soil feeds vines. The vines raise cups of wine to new lips. Life circles back, endlessly. Tonight, as you rest, the city's final whisper reaches across centuries to you, that ordinary days are sacred things. Every trivial moment, the scent of bread, the sound of laughter, the warmth of home, is a world entire. So close your eyes. Imagine again the quiet streets, the soft play of light on plaster walls, the faint drip of water from a fountain. Hear the murmur of distant voices, gentle and kind. See the mountain resting beyond the fields, harmless for now. The air cools. The world slows. As you drift into sleep. You might think of Pompeii, not its destruction, but its life, its laughter, its peace. Because even in ash, beauty endures, and perhaps, in remembering them, you let them live once more. Good night.
A very long time ago, there were no cities, no cars, no books, and no schools. People live in caves or small huts made for grass and wood. They hunted animals for food and pick fruits from trees. These people were called early humans. After many years, humans learned to grow food. They did not need to move from one place to another more anymore. They made farms and started to live in one area. This was the beginning of villages. So soon some villages become bigger. People built towns and later cities. They made tools from stones, copper, and iron. They learned to write. The first people who wrote words on clay table lived in Mesopotamia. Around the same time, people built a big pyramid in Egypt and large cities grew beside the Indus River in India. In China, people started to grow rice and build walls to protect their land. These early people made rules, government, and temple. They called their kings gods and built huge buildings to show their power. This was the start of human civilization. A very long time ago, there were no cities, no cars, no books, and no schools. People live in caves or small huts made for grass and wood. They hunted animals for food and pick fruits from trees. These people were called early humans. After many years, humans learned to grow food. They did not need to move from one place to another more anymore. They made farms and started to live in one area. This was the beginning of villages. So soon some villages become bigger. People built towns and later cities. They made tools from stones, copper, and iron. They learned to write. The first people who wrote words on clay table lived in Mesopotamia. Around the same time, people built a big pyramid in Egypt and large cities grew beside the Indus River in India. In China, people started to grow rice and build walls to protect their land. These early people made rules, government, and temple. They called their kings gods and built huge buildings to show their power. This was the start of human civilization. A very long time ago, there were no cities, no cars, no books, and no schools. People live in caves or small huts made for grass and wood. They hunted animals for food and pick fruits from trees. These people were called early humans. After many years, humans learned to grow food. They did not need to move from one place to another more anymore. They made farms and started to live in one area. This was the beginning of villages. So soon some villages become bigger. People built towns and later cities. They made tools from stones, copper, and iron. They learned to write. The first people who wrote words on clay table lived in Mesopotamia. Around the same time, people built a big pyramid in Egypt, and large cities grew beside the Indus River in India. In China, people started to grow rice and build walls to protect their land. These early people made rules, government, and temple. They called their kings gods and built huge buildings to show their power. This was the start of human civilization. A very long time ago, there were no cities, no cars, no books, and no schools. People live in caves or small huts made for grass and wood. They hunted animals for food and pick fruits from trees. These people were called early humans. After many years, humans learned to grow food. They did not need to move from one place to another more anymore. They made farms and started to live in one area. This was the beginning of villages. So soon some villages become bigger. People built towns and later cities. They made tools from stones, copper, and iron. They learned to write. The first people who wrote words on clay table lived in Mesopotamia. Around the same time, people built a big pyramid in Egypt, and large cities grew beside the Indus River in India. In China, people started to grow rice and build walls to protect their land. These early people made rules, government, and temple. They called their kings gods and built huge buildings to show their power. This was the start of human civilization. A very long time ago, there were no cities, no cars, no books, and no schools. People live in caves or small huts made for grass and wood. They hunted animals for food and pick fruits from trees. These people were called early humans. After many years, humans learned to grow food. They did not need to move from one place to another more anymore. They made farms and started to live in one area. This was the beginning of villages. So soon some villages become bigger. People built towns and later cities. They made tools from stones, copper, and iron. They learned to write. The first people who wrote words on clay table lived in Mesopotamia. Around the same time, people built a big pyramid in Egypt, and large cities grew beside the Indus River in India. In China, people started to grow rice and build walls to protect their land. These early people made rules, government, and temple. They called their kings gods and built huge buildings to show their power. This was the start of human civilization. A very long time ago, there were no cities, no cars, no books, and no schools. People live in caves or small huts made for grass and wood. They hunted animals for food and pick fruits from trees. These people were called early humans. After many years, humans learned to grow food. They did not need to move from one place to another more anymore. They made farms and started to live in one area. This was the beginning of villages. So soon some villages become bigger. People built towns and later cities. They made tools from stones, copper, and iron. They learned to write. The first people who wrote words on clay table lived in Mesopotamia. Around the same time, people built a big pyramid in Egypt and large cities grew beside the Indus River in India. In China, people started to grow rice and build walls to protect their land. These early people made rules, government, and temple. They called their kings gods and built huge buildings to show their power. This was the start of human civilization. A very long time ago, there were no cities, no cars, no books, and no schools. People live in caves or small huts made for grass and wood. They hunted animals for food and pick fruits from trees. These people were called early humans. After many years, humans learned to grow food. They did not need to move from one place to another more anymore. They made farms and started to live in one area. This was the beginning of villages. So soon some villages become bigger. People built towns and later cities. They made tools from stones, copper, and iron. They learned to write. The first people who wrote words on clay table lived in Mesopotamia. Around the same time, people built a big pyramid in Egypt and large cities grew beside the Indus River in India. In China, people started to grow rice and build walls to protect their land. These early people made rules, government, and temple. They called their kings gods and built huge buildings to show their power. This was the start of human civilization.